everyone. It is currently kind of the start of the year. For me, it's actually still my first week. And because I'm at least AS now, I'm starting to make my notes a lot earlier. I'm starting to make sure that I don't fall behind in memorizing stuff we were learning in class. I'm kind of getting ahead so I know what's coming up in my next class. So obviously, as well for you, you're going to be wanting to make your notes soon. You're going to be wanting to make them good, and you're going to want to be able to use them in the future. So this video is going to be me showing you how I revise, make notes, and so on and so on. Notice I didn't say how one revises because everyone does revise differently. I am fully aware that no two people actually can revise in the same way. It's just, this is how I do it. It works for me. I kind of solidified it in senior school, about 5th year, kind of when it settled. So this is how I revise. I'm going to be showing you almost like a study with me, but sped up quite a bit, hopefully, if I can do that. Yeah, this is going to be how I revise, and this section here is going to be phase 1, which is note making. Once I past note making, then I'll do another video on how I convert my notes to other things, for example, posters and micro posters. So yeah, I have some notes to make on buffers in biology. Not a long topic, just a short one. I think, how much do I have in buffers? And then I do also have some lipids that I need to have a look at. So yeah, I'd only started that today, so yeah, it's my second day of biology. I haven't done much. But yeah, these are the notes I'm going to be making, and I'm going to be showing you how I do it. So that page there is quite a wordy page for biology. At the minute, the stuff we're doing does tend to be pretty wordy. So in my notes, there are plenty of words. As you see, I have my question that is taken pretty much from my class notes. I have the question here. And then I have basically the definition, what is the buffer solution. Then I have the definition here, which then I've got some background information of acidity and alkalinity being caused by their appropriate ions, and some facts just about why buffers have to exist. And then hydrogen carbonate and phosphate salts are both buffers in blood plasma, and then I've got a short section about amino acids as buffers. So that's all I will actually do for that page. That's all I need to know according to my teacher so far. I have here my notes on water. So we started off talking about polarity and how water is polar, delta positive and delta negative in the water, which help us stick together, the importance of water biologically, and then we went on to talk about water as a solvent, water as a lubricant properties, for example. And as you can see, for these, they are mostly bulleted lists, or numbered lists, really, which for me is one of the ways I can learn lists. Yeah, they're all numbered lists with like explanations next to them, which is just how I learn it. And then we had a table that, according to my teacher, I'll have to learn. So this is my written out version of the table. It's ions, inorganic ions learned for biology. And then I will transfer them to my whiteboard, where I can then study them and learn them, or learn the table. Some of this information on buffering and water I probably won't look at for a while. It'll just kind of sit there and I'll go over it in class. And then later on, possibly on a Saturday, or when I do a full topic revision on 1.1, I will then re-look over it and I will convert it to flashcards and posters. So that is my notes for this, and then now I will give you some advice on how to take notes and what is important and what isn't important and how I do it. So whenever I am making my notes, there are different things you have to look at that will mean that your notes will look different. For example, I have here a page from my class notes, which is about water, and as you see, there are just bulleted lists. I copied that list, all three of those lists, directly into my notes as they are here. That means that I'm not missing anything. I can learn them from my notes easily. They're nicely ordered. I do like things that are ordered. It means they're easier to remember, to be honest, for me. And there's a lot of good information here, which means I do need to know pretty much all of it. There are some things that you can take out. For example, this says here, metabolic water. Some desert-dwelling animals store fat with the purpose of breaking it down to release water in metabolism. I said metabolic water. Some animals store fat with the purpose of breaking it down to release water. That's all I said for that, because in metabolism, it's already in the title metabolic water, and some desert-dwelling animals doesn't need to be there, so I just said some animals. There are other things, for example, in secretions, it said about tears consisting of lysosome or lysozyme, and snake venoms have toxins in suspensions of water. I didn't mention the toxins from the snake venom, just because it's extra. I just don't need, the room isn't there in your notes for you to put everything in it. There were some other things. For example, on this page here, we have a diagram. So I included a similar diagram in my notes, which I made myself. And we also have some information. Now, this information is not in lists, which means that for me, I like to either put things in lists or put things in wordy sentences, kind of like a list, but not listed, no bullet points or anything. So what I would do is I shortened it down from this much on an A4 page to a lot shorter in my notebook, which I'll show you. It's just the first page. So it went from being about that length on an A4 page to being this length on an A5 page. Just meant that, for me, easier to process. I did use quite a lot of information. I added some of my own words to make it easier for me to understand, because obviously who's going to be reading it? Me. So if I can't understand it, if I can't understand it, I can't learn it. And if no one else can understand it, that's completely fine. Then I drew my diagram, as shown here. My diagram showing water and how its polarity and sticks to itself through cohesion. And that's kind of what I do. There are some questions and answers. If there's a definition, usually say there's an explicit definition, I'll put the word in red and put the definition in blue. However, for my definition for, what was it? It was a buffer solution. It was asked in question for my book, so I just put question and answer, and I indent it so that for me, or that was the wrong way for you, I indent it so that for me it is easier to see. And also, in primary school, I was taught that paragraphs should be indented ever so slightly. However, for me, I actually like to start my paragraphs or sentence phrases, whatever, at the start, and then my next one is indented slightly, so that you see, like, you have the point and then all the bits underneath kind of like a T. So you've got your bits sticking out of the T, and then you've got the bits going down the middle so that it all seems like it flows much better. That's what I do. Works for me. And that's just kind of how I do my notes. So yeah, that is my note-taking tips. I would say you want to get as much information in your notes as physically possible while minimizing the space taken for you to write your notes and time taken for you to write your notes. For example, the maybe 4/5 page you saw me write there on buffering, for me, that took me about 10 minutes to write. It takes me approximately 15 minutes to fill a full A5 side, just maybe under. Depends on what it is and how complicated it is. If I understand it, like I do understand buffering, it's not a difficult concept. It takes less time because I can remember the phrases more, but if it's something completely new that I have to learn from scratch, it takes a lot longer. I hope you enjoyed this video on how I take notes, part 1 or phase 1. If you have any questions about how I take notes, I will happily answer them in the comments down below. I'm going to try and post this as soon as possible. I have some videos scheduled for the upcoming weeks. However, some people who I do know personally have requested this video, so I'm going to put it out as soon as possible. And then as I continue to make my notes and develop them from phase 1 to phase 2, I will then put out videos on how I make the transition from bulk notes to shorter notes. I will also do a video on how I use whiteboards to my advantage. So I have 2 whiteboards in my room, one small one, which you can actually see there. And then I've got a big one on my wall, which is just beside me. My big one on my wall is for scheduling and putting things up and writing like a random key fact or whatever, or even testing. I'll sometimes like testing stuff by writing because it's a bigger whiteboard. I'll just write things out. That one, as you can see there are words holding on the side, which I use for, or it's actually chemistry that I just put on the side. That's my memorizing whiteboard. It helps with memorization but not note taking. I will do a whole video on that. So, hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!